The following are two more mysterious cases of reincarnation. Helmut Krauss, Austria. Werner Seehofer was born in Bratislava on August 14, 1868. Bratislava was once part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. When Werner was old enough, he joined the Austrian Imperial Army and lived in Vienna. He eventually rose in the ranks and by 1902 had become a colonel, and was posted to Linz in Upper Austria, where he stayed until 1907. Towards the end of World War I, in January 1918, he had risen in the ranks to become a general and commander of a division on the Italian front in the war. However, on June 17, 1918, his actions suddenly became irrational when he left his headquarters and started walking towards the front line. Many of his fellow soldiers advised him not to go any further, but he ignored them and continued to walk towards the enemy lines. Newspapers later reported that General Werner Seehofer, aged 48, had been wounded and captured by the Italian army, and was thought to have died in an army hospital. Looking back, it appears that his irrational behaviour was possibly caused by shell shock, or what today is called PTSD. About 13 years after Werner Seehofer had died in an army hospital, a baby was born in Linz, Austria, on June 1, 1931, and his name was Helmut Krauss. From the age of 4, Helmut continued to speak about a past life that he'd lived. Helga Ulrich was a family friend and would regularly collect Helmut from kindergarten. And one day Helmut said to Helga, "When I was big, I lived at 9 Manfred Street," and he also said that he'd been a high officer in the Great War being World War I. It just so happened that Helga had a friend called Anne Seehofer who lived at 9 Manfred Street. Linz and her friend Anne also had a cousin called Werner Seehofer, and he'd been a general that had once lived at 9 Manfred Street. Helmut also said to Helga, "When I was big, I lived in Vienna for many years," and he told her the street and number where he lived in Vienna. Helmut was also able to tell Helga where his past life in-laws lived in Linz. Helga was so intrigued by the boy's story that she decided to investigate and found that he had given the exact addresses of General Werner Seehofer as well as his in-laws in both Linz and Vienna. On another occasion, when they were walking home from kindergarten, Helga advised him to keep his overcoat open as it was a warm day. However, Helmut refused to open his coat and said an officer is not allowed to go with an open overcoat. And if soldiers passed them, Helmut would face forward and salute. Helmut was later introduced to General Werner Seehofer's widow, where he behaved very shyly, compared to his usual friendly behaviour. Well-known Canadian-American psychiatrist Professor Ian Stevenson suggested that his shy behaviour could have indicated recognition by Helmut of his wife from a past incarnation. As Helmut got older, he developed passions for horseback riding and sports, which apparently were also characteristic of Werner Seehofer. Helmut also had a genuine fear of loud noises, which could be attributed to the loud noises of war, which eventually led to his death in that previous incarnation. Teuvo Koivisto, Finland. On August 20th, 1971, a boy named Teuvo Koivisto was born into a Lutheran Christian family in Helsinki, Finland. His father's name was Jan, and his mother's name was Lusa. When Lusa was pregnant, she had a dream where she was standing in a line of prisoners that were gradually moving forward. Then someone said to her, "Take shelter under the straw," and then found herself with a man who was holding a copy of the Kabbalah, an ancient Jewish book of mystical interpretation of the Bible. She could hear men shouting in the background, and they were shooting guns. Then the man with the Kabbalah said to Lusa, "The baby you're expecting is a Jew, and I will save your life." Then she awoke from the dream. In 1974, when Teuvo was 3 years old, he told his mother that he had lived before and spoke about the big furnace in which people were placed in piles. He said some were lying on top of others and used his hands to show Lusa the shape of the oven, and was told that he was being taken to the bathroom, but he was taken to the furnace instead. People were also told to undress, and gold teeth and eyeglasses were taken from them. He said that the gas came out of the walls and he couldn't breathe. He also described an oven with children in it. Teuvo was describing scenes of a German concentration camp in World War II, and his mother could see that he was extremely frightened and terrified, and experienced breathing difficulties when describing the ovens and the gas. The attacks lasted up to 15 minutes. His concerned mother took him to a doctor, but they could find nothing physically wrong with him, and they told her he did not have asthma. On another occasion, Chuva said to his mother, "I am caught on barbed wire, come and get me off," and he seemed depressed when she spoke of the barbed wire. When Chuva was 3 years old, and for the next 6 months, he started to talk about his concentration camp memories. When she was interviewed about her son's stories, she told them that her son had not learned about concentration camps by any normal means, and was rarely allowed to watch television that had violent scenes. Nobody in the family spoke about the Holocaust or concentration camps, and they did not know any Jewish people. Professor Ian Stevenson confirmed that the scenes Chuva described were accurate for German concentration camps where children under 14 years of age were separated from other prisoners. These children were deemed too young to be useful workers and were killed. When Jewish people were sent to gas chambers, they were told that they were being taken to a bathroom. They had to undress before other items were taken off of them and later recycled. They were then placed in the gas chambers. Afterwards, their gold teeth and eyeglasses were removed from the bodies. Then they were piled on top of each other in furnaces. Barbed wire surrounded the camps. Chuva's memories were accurate for German concentration camps of World War II. As a child, Chuva would often hide so that his parents couldn't find him, and he would hide in the empty space between rooms. His behaviour lasted until he was about 14 years old. When Chuva was 28, he spoke to Professor Ian Stevenson and told him that he always wanted to feel safe, and even at 28 he didn't like his residence because it lacked a hiding place. Professor Stevenson believed that Chuva's hiding behaviour was quite possibly related to strategies Jews had to use to hide themselves from the Nazis. In the Warsaw Ghetto, Jews would break down walls between apartments so that they could move from one apartment to another without being seen, and could also move their possessions and supplies throughout an entire apartment complex in a clandestine way. They could also hide from the Nazis in shelters created between apartment walls. Chuva told Professor Stevenson that he suffered from fear and anxiety when he saw Nazi uniforms or the swastika, but had no fear of British or French flags or uniforms. Although Chuva's past lifetime could not be historically validated, from the age of 3 he had accurately described life in a German concentration camp, which could not be dismissed. His mother insisted that he had no way of learning about these camps through normal means. A past lifetime where he experienced life in a concentration camp is the only way to explain his memories and knowledge.